The last session we did, we had some recording for the session, and that recording was posted. A link was posted on your platform. I don't know how. Of course, so many mails were received from your class in terms of requesting for access. Can you just kindly give us the feedback in terms of how was that recording, so that we can know how best we can help you more? Anyone who's free, you can pick up your hand, you speak, or you can write on your writing pad. Remember, we gave you have that writing pad as well. You can try to confirm how your experience was with the previous recording. Okay, Mr. Danny, I've seen your hand up. Okay, Diodone says the recording was okay. I don't know which other people had. Did you manage to go to have? Okay, Mr. Morgan. Mr. Morgan, you can. Yes, Mr. Morgan.
Okay, Morgan. Yeah, he was okay, and the
Okay, the recording was okay. Just for those ones who are joining us for the first time, we did advise that the videos should be okay. Great, videos should be. You need to not to activate them. You have to deactivate them. Okay, anyone with yes? Is it Mr. Let me just see the people who have put up their hands that it can. Okay, Mr. Manda. Yes, Mr. Manda, you can switch on your mic and speak.
No, sir, I'm able to get everything, but the video, I didn't access the video. No, not clear online. No.
It wasn't clear on your part. Okay, okay, great to hear from you. We have some more messages. Let me just try to check on the response that we are getting. Okay, Mr. Anderson says, please sir, I can't hear. Okay, of course, that was the time I think we had not yet started. Mr. Anderson, are you able to get us now? Try to confirm. Mr. John Ilela as well said no volume. I think that is the time we had not yet started. Those of you who had complaints with the volume, can you kindly confirm if you're able to get us clearly now? Okay, Mr. Tembo. Okay, what was your comment about? He said yes, we can. That was it supposed to imply that you are able to get me? Okay, fine. Mr. Jonathan also saying it is clear. Diodone says the recording was okay. Joseph also says the recording was okay. Okay. What other people's experiences? We need to get that experience so that we are able to see how best we can help you. Okay, I can see some more messages coming. Let me just try to check on that. Okay, Mr. Njovu says the recording was okay. Okay, so in case you have challenges in accessing that, okay, John says is able to hear now. Okay, in case you have challenges in terms of accessing those recordings, what was happening was that Once the link is sent to your platform, you are required to click on the link, and then the link will give you instructions in terms of we're supposed to click on accessing accessing the recording. So when you click on that, it will come to my mail directly, and then I'll be able to activate your account for you to access it. So it is just not a matter of clicking on the link. Click on the link and follow the instructions. Then you'll be able to access the recording, and you'll be able to download it, and you can play it in your office. You can play it as you are doing your other duties. Okay, that is the beauty about these recordings. So even today's session, we are doing just that. So by tomorrow, this recording will be posted on your platform so that those who be able to miss can be able to access that, and those who have network challenges for today, they can be able to go through what was happening. Okay, maybe let me just try to check some more incoming messages. John Ilela says, I'm able to hear now, it's fine. Okay, great. Diodone says the recording was okay. Jonathan Ziva says, you are clear. Okay, is it Musopelo? And he says, yes, we can get you now. Okay, great. Mr. Siyulo Tembo says, yes, he can get me. I don't know, someone is trying to call me. I don't know if they're trying to come in class. Yeah. Okay. So, in terms of the previous lesson, remember our interest was about looking at Spartan education. So today we are going to look at Athenian education. I think that is what we had talked about in the previous lesson. We've had enough of Spartan education. I think we did something in class, and we also did revise for those who missed the time we had in class. So today we're moving on to Athenian education, and we did say that our interest in Athenian education was to look at the following things. Hopefully people have remembered to come with books and pens, because we did say that what is happening here, it is just as the normal class. So we're looking at Athenian education, which is, we said, was part of the origin of Western education. Okay, we did say Athens was one of the cities in Greece, just like Sparta. Now, from Spartan education, we heard that the main aim of education was physical training. Madam Sarah, are you speaking? Switch on your mic. Okay, it could be network challenges. It could be network challenges. I don't know others. Of course, it's about to start raining here, and you know, these network providers, usually we tend to have those problems. Okay, great. How is it now? It's a bit better. Okay. Even your voice is quite faint. I can't get it as in very much clearly. Okay, Ivani says it's clear. I'm able to get you. That is Madrix Motok as well. Okay, since others are able to get us, it means that we'll proceed. Since the recording is happening, okay, those who are still having challenges, you may find time to listen to the recording. Okay, of course, network cannot be the same across the country. Okay, so we'll probably proceed. Okay, great. Someone is trying to. Okay, so what we did say was that we are looking at Athenian education. Okay, so this Athenian education was among the top two. It was probably together with the Spartan education, which we had looked at last week as the origin of Western education. We did say that our interest was to look at their aim of education, and then trying to differentiate that aim of education from the Spartan education. And thereafter, we move on to look at the early philosophers and their contribution to education development in Zambia. Okay, so we did say that the aim of education in Spartan education was physical training or physical exercises. Now, when the education system shifted to the Athenians, it also shifted in terms of content. So the main aim of education for the Athenians was training the intellect or training the mind. As a result of that, we find that issues of basic literacy became one of the priorities for that system of education. So meaning reading and writing was part of the content for the Athenian education system. So now this system of education has specified scholars who emerged. Okay, so there are probably four philosophers that we are going to look at from Athenian education. The first ones being the sophists. Okay, so sophists have been recorded to have been the first teachers to have provided organized system of education. Okay, so these sophists were the first street teachers. They didn't have schools to teach from, but rather they were just walking in streets and then mobilizing boys and teaching them what was called rhetoric. Rhetoric, in other words, in today's language, they call that as the art of speaking, the art of winning arguments. Okay, that was what these first teachers were teaching. And of course, with regard to the current Zambian education system, we find that we have adopted this particular method which the sophists were using, which is teaching people how to win arguments. As we see our children in schools, they are given lessons to engage in debates, isn't it? And at the same time, we see this type of education being adopted even by what we call the learned fraternity, the lawyers. That is the similar system of approach they use in their line of work, where their interest is to win arguments. Okay, so the first people to have adopted or to have initiated this system is what they called the sophists as street teachers. When they are teaching this, it is known that they were teaching for money. They are not teaching for free. And again, from our education system point of view, we've seen that over the years, people had complained about school fees being hiked. We probably don't even know where did this system of charging for education come from. So the idea of charging for education, which of course even the Zambian education system was adopted, was coming from these first street teachers. So when these street teachers were teaching rhetoric, an independent thinker emerged by the name of Socrates. Okay, so Socrates emerges as an independent thinker. Okay, whilst these sophists, they were a group of thinkers who were probably quite notable individuals in that particular group. Some of them have made their independent contributions, but they were classified as one as the sophists. But when this was happening, an independent thinker emerges by the name of Socrates. So Socrates becomes an independent thinker, and then he has a different approach from the sophists. Whilst the sophists were teaching for money, and they were teaching the art of winning arguments, whether those arguments are based on truth or they are based on lies, they did not care. But Socrates emerges to teach, and his teachings, they say he was concerned about teaching the truth. He emerges to teach about equality. He emerges to teach about democracy. He emerges to teach about justice, okay, and against corruption. Whilst he was doing this, he's also providing education for free. Okay, so that is what distinguishes him from the sophists. Okay, so Socrates becomes an independent thinker with that particular line of presentation, free education. So he's considered as the father of what? Universal education. Currently, that is what we call free education or universal education. The Zambian case, I think we are all witnesses to that particular fact that the current government has extended free education from grade 8, which from grade 7. Previously, it used to be from grade 1 to grade 7, but they have extended that to grade 12. Okay, where are these ideas coming from? They are coming from these early scholars. Our friends were talking about free education. Is it 500 years before Jesus was born? That is when these systems of education was in existence. Okay. So our interest is to look at other contributions which Socrates provided with regard to education. So apart from him providing free education, he also came up with a method of teaching which is called question and answer method. His interest was to go in streets just like the sophists, and then he would find the young boys, Mr. Okay, sorry, yeah, there's just some I can get that. Some people are trying to get in touch. I don't know if they are trying to get into class. Okay, but the instructions are quite clear, isn't it? Instructions are quite clear in terms of how one can get into class, and those they could have probably managed to do those calls earlier. Okay, I have some people have raised up their hands, and that is Mr. Tabo. You have a question? Switch on your mic. Although your sound is quite faint. Okay, just a minute. Let me just try to, because people's sound is quite faint. I don't know what is. What is happening? Okay. Yes, I saw. Is it Mr. Danny as well? You had your hand up. Mr. Danny, is your hand up? I saw Madam Sakala as well. Your hand was up. Okay, how is the sound now? Anyone to confirm? It's a bit clear now, isn't it? Okay, so Mr. Dan, what was your question or your observation?
Okay, now.
Okay, this time it's okay, isn't it?
Yes, I think it's just the different locations. If we do that, we won't learn.
Okay, great.
There will be fluctuations as we go on.
All right.
So it's better maybe you just continue. When it fades, we pick it up. Unlike to be clear throughout, it won't work out because of different locations.
Okay, great.
That we move on, sir.
Okay, great. Madam Precious, what is your take? Mr. Tabo? Okay. All right, so we proceed. I was actually talking about Socrates. I was saying that he becomes the first philosopher to establish himself as an independent thinker, and then introduces what is called free education because he's teaching for free in streets. Apart from that, he also introduces what is called the question and answer method, which of course teachers in Zambia world over have adopted, and they are using that. The purpose, of course, why was he using the question and answer method? According to him, he said this method could be used to determine the level of ignorance which the learners have, meaning that when you go to class, you have a topic to teach. Sometimes you need to assess the level of knowledge which the learners have. So give them questions, and that is exactly what teachers do. Apart from that, Socrates also gives us what he calls the types of knowledge. He divides knowledge in two categories. The first category calls it ordinary knowledge, which is the knowledge everyone possesses, but this knowledge is not usually important. And such type of knowledge, we get it through day-to-day experiences. For example, we take when you're going into town or you're going to the market, you do not necessarily carry your notebook to start taking note of everything that you are seeing on the road, isn't it? Because it is not important. But when you're going to class, you always have to go with a book so that you take note of that which is being talked about, because that knowledge provided is quite important. So it is Socrates who gives us that distinctions in terms of knowledge for the first time, that there is ordinary knowledge as well as higher knowledge. So he says the education system should focus on providing higher knowledge. Apart from that, Socrates also says that there are methods which we can use for learning. So one of them we have already highlighted, that is the question and answer method. That is one. Second, he says we can learn from wise people. Okay, spending time with wise people can also be the source of knowledge. Third, he says interpretation of statements. Okay, interpretation of statements comes in with regard to when you are reading or when you are studying. Don't just read without interpreting what you are reading. Okay, so that time we spend in trying to understand or trying to reflect on what we are reading tends to be the source of knowledge. That is according to Socrates. Apart from that, he also says self-reflection. Okay, spending time to listen to ourselves can be the source of knowledge as well. Okay, great. So that is in brief what we have on Socrates, I believe. Sorry, on Socrates, yes. I believe there are also some other recordings which I've posted with regard to his teachings. So we'll use this particular platform for you to ask those questions and make clarifications with regard to what Socrates had presented. Okay, Mr. Collins, you says, sir, you are too fast. Okay, sorry, sir, for that. We'll try to... Any clarifications based on what we are talking about with regard to Socrates? Any observations, any questions that people would want to make? Like we did last time, we said the class should be interactive. People should feel free to make contributions. Okay, Mr. Diodone says the network is dropping on your part. Okay, sorry for that. Mr. Dan, is that hand up? I've seen Tabo's hand is up. I've seen Precious. I don't know if it's... Yes. Any question?
Yes, sir. You were saying Socrates added a number of methods of learning. You said question and answer, and then spending time with the wise people. What other two did you add?
Okay, so the other two includes self-reflection. Okay, self-reflection implies spend time to yourself and listen to what your mind is saying. Listen to what your heart is saying, isn't it? Before you make a decision, rather than rushing into making decisions. Okay, self-reflection. We listen to ourselves before we make decisions. The other one is about interpretation of statements. Interpretation of statements is about when you read what other people have written. We like the way for Christians, the way they do it, isn't it? The Bible is not understood based on the literal statements which have been printed. They spend time to have to have someone who understands the content to interpret on their behalf, isn't it? So it says that we can use you can use this approach even in academics. If you want to understand things, we need to interpret the statements. It's not just a matter of reading statements and then taking them as they are. Okay, so for him, he was of the view that we spend time interpreting the statements that we read, because that is when we are going to get the true meaning of what we are learning. Okay, thank you, Mr. Tabo. Any other?
Good evening, Mr. Jeff.
Yes, Mr. Kauma.
I wanted to ask on a previous statement you made about Socrates dividing knowledge into, so you said into ordinary knowledge, then what were the other divisions? I don't think I got them.
So I said there were two categories. ordinary knowledge, which is knowledge based on things which are usually not important, like the type of knowledge we tend to acquire when we are, for example, in town just walking about. We tend to see a lot of things, isn't it? But not everything that we see tends to be important, and hence we tend to ignore them, isn't it? But an example of higher knowledge, the other category calls it higher knowledge, which he says this is the knowledge which the education system should aim to provide. So when you are a teacher, your duty is to provide higher knowledge, which is the knowledge which is important and should be cherished and preserved for future use. Okay, so that is what those are the two categories.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other question? Mr. Siulo?
Good evening, sir.
Yes, Mr. Tembo.
Yes. When I have possibility, I was to the few maybe just major points, like maybe the types of knowledge and the methods of learning, maybe just to be pasted on the messages if the notes are there, because sometimes the network is breaking and we miss. But if the note can just be posted in messages, if the soft copy is there.
Okay, great. Okay, of course, what we are talking about is part of the slides. I don't know if they have already come to your group. If you have seen I think I've sent some slides on the philosophers, so you find that these ideas are there. Okay, at the same time, we did say that these sessions will be recorded, so you probably in your free time find time to listen to them from time to time. Okay.
And Dan can mute his mic because it's not clear.
Okay, is it Mr. Okay, Mr. Kindly switch off your mics if so that we don't get that feedback. Okay, I've seen some other hands up. Let me just try to see those hands. Ooh. Okay, can I see those hands? Okay, fine. It was Mr. Manda who had raised up the hand. Okay, Mr. Jonathan.
Yes. Okay.
Mr. Manda, you can come first.
Yes. From the onset, when you introduced Socrates, you talked about justice. That you taught something about justice.
Yes.
As well as democracy. Any other? I think I missed one point.
Okay, so Socrates is known for positive things. Okay, in fact, other writers, they have said this man should have been, because these people are living 500 years before Jesus was born. Okay, but that 500 years before Jesus was born, he was already talking about equality. He was talking about justice. He was talking about democracy. He was talking about he was preaching against corruption. The reason you find that the sophists together with the politicians connived to find him with a case, and he got convicted. The case they gave him was that he was inciting young people to rise against the state. Okay, basing on the fact that he was teaching equality, he was teaching justice, he was teaching moral values, he was teaching against corruption, and he was teaching for free. Okay, so he won a lot of recognition, which made him to have many young people following him, and that did not sit well with the sophists and the politicians of the day. Okay, so that is the reason they had to accuse him and sentence him to either to go into exile, or they asked him to take poison, which of course he decided that I can't go into exile for not doing anything wrong. I would rather take poison and die. Unfortunately, that is how he ended his life. Okay. Are we there? Mr. Boas and Abel?
Yes.
Okay, great. Mr. Boas, do you have a hand? Do you have a question? Mr. Abel?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, amongst the ideas that you explained that Socrates had in regard to education was the interpretation of statements and as well as the examination of oneself as well as that of others.
Yes.
Maybe I would love you to shed more light on the interpretation of the statements as well as the other component, the examination of oneself as well as others.
Examination of oneself is about self-assessment. Okay, quite important. Every wise person is supposed to have this self-assessment. It's about self-consciousness. You need to listen to yourself. You need to have that consideration for others. It's not just about everything for yourself. That is a kind of self-examination which Socrates was talking about. Okay. In terms of interpretation of statements, we did say that this is being applied with regard to what we read in the books, isn't it? Sometimes writers can have hidden meaning to what they have written. Okay, it's not everything which has been written down tends to imply exactly the way we read it. Okay, sometimes we require to find someone with a higher understanding to interpret it on our behalf. So those are the key elements which Socrates was saying that they were quite important in the education process. Okay, thank you. All right, can we proceed, Mr. Boas? Is that hand by intention or it's by error? Okay, great. We proceed. So I did mention that we're looking at these Athenian philosophers. So while Socrates was teaching this, one of his students was Plato. Okay. One of his students was who? Plato. So, in fact, Plato was one of the boys who were learning in the streets from Socrates. So it meant that as Plato was growing up, all these education ideas which Socrates had, Plato adopted them. Okay. Including the idea of universal education, including the idea of question and answer method. Okay. Those including probably issues of morality, inclusion of morality in the education system. So these are some of the education ideas which Plato grew up learning from his teacher was Socrates. But apart from that, Plato comes out to establish himself as the greatest philosopher in terms of a systematic philosopher, because his teachings were written down. He produced books based on what? His own ideas. Unfortunately, Socrates did not write anything. Everything that we have learnt about Socrates are as a result of other people writing about him. So some some scholars, they tend to question Socrates of not being the philosopher in the systematic sense, and they tend to consider Plato to be the first systematic philosopher because his ideas were written down and published. Among his books includes what is called the Republic. Okay, that particular document, that is where he highlights his educational ideas in his book, which is called the Republic. Apart from that, Plato also established the first organized school, which was called the Academy. Okay, so Plato opens up an established school, which is called the Academy, as opposed to Socrates, who was teaching in streets. So Plato comes out to be more organized because he puts up the system in place. So at this school, which is called the Academy, that is where we will be able to look at his education ideas. But before we go to his education ideas, we'll look at his philosophy. So Plato is known to be an idealist. He's known to be the father of idealism. Okay, meaning for him, he says ideas are the most important elements, or they are the most important things which we are supposed to teach to our learners. He says these ideas have the following characteristics. You should take note of that. Ideas are permanent. Then ideas are universal. Then he says ideas contain the truth. Then he says ideas are the most important. Okay, so even the education system should aim at helping learners develop these ideas. Okay, with regard to his teaching on idealism, he further says that these ideas are inborn. Children are born with ideas. Okay, when they come to school, they don't come empty-headed. They come with ideas. So we're trying to bring him into the picture of our classroom environment. That is from Plato's perspective. When we go to class, we see these children. They are not coming as blank slates. Okay, they are coming with ideas which are inborn. Your job as a teacher is to reorganize these ideas which are already in the head. Okay, those are the teachings which Plato brings to education. Okay, as a result of that, that makes him to be the greatest philosopher, because all the philosophies, all the ideas of philosophers who we are going to look at, they'll be reacting to Plato's teachings. Okay, because of his theory on idealism. And I should believe, because you are experts from your different fields, you may have come across theories, interpretation of various theories, whether it's in business, whether it's in whichever field, talking about idealism. Okay, we move away from his philosophy, we come to his educational ideas. Okay, because time is we're almost remaining with about 10 minutes before we wind up. So we come to his education. So, like we said, Plato grew up learning from Socrates. So you find that among his education ideas, he adopts the idea of universal education, which entails education should be for everyone, no segregation. Then he adopts the idea of question and answer method, okay, which teachers usually use. But in addition to that, he says the method of teaching should be dialogue. Okay, there should be freedom in education. Okay, there should be this exchange of ideas between teachers and the learners, so that the teacher can be able to assess the level of understanding. Okay, so dialogue and debates are encouraged in the education ideas which Plato presented, which is called idealism. Apart from that, we also see Plato making the recommendation that the state should control the education system. Remember in the book that I told you that I wrote the book called The Republic, in which was trying to talk about what should be happening in the in an independent country. Okay, one of the recommendations he made was the fact that the state should have the responsibility to control the education system. Okay, by controlling, that implies is it prescribing the curriculum? Is it employing teachers and establishing schools? And if we are to see what is happening across the globe, we find that these ideas are what countries have adopted. Teachers are still using the question and answer method. Governments are still controlling the education system world over. We also have from Plato the idea of dividing education according to different age groups. Okay, the current system that we have, where we have the primary, the secondary, and the tertiary education, all these ideas are coming from Plato and the scholars from Athenian education. So these scholars have highly contributed with regard to the development of our education system. Okay, I think for now I can open up the last set of questions. Remember, we still have Aristotle to come and look at, and that will be done in our next session, which will be a Tuesday. Is it a Tuesday? I should think so. Or is it Thursday? Thursday. We'll be able to do that on Thursday. So for now, I'm opening the questions based on what we have covered from Plato. Any questions? Feel free. Put up your hand or put up your message. Okay, I can see a number of hands. Let me try to get to that. Mr. Tabo.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for the lecture. I wanted to find out, in our times, do we marry both education systems, the Athenian education and also the Spartan, or as we are teaching, we stick to one?
Okay, great. That's a good question. His question is, do we... the fact that we are looking at Greek education, and from Greek education we've looked at Athenian education and Spartan education. So his question is, do we combine the two? Okay, or do we just pick one? Okay, so the answer is the entire Greek education system is highly recognized and applied. That is the very reason why we are learning about these systems. Remember, from Spartan education, we did talk about those virtues: prudence, obedience, fortitude, temperance, which we said they're all quite relevant for you to as a teacher. Okay, this time we're looking at the Athenians with their emphasis on training the mind or intellectual development, which of course, even in our education system, that is still being applied. At the same time, we've looked at these scholars, the ideas from Socrates, the ideas from Plato. They're all quite highly implemented in our education system. Okay, so like we said, the whole idea about looking at these systems is to understand what is going on in the education system. Where did these things come from? So that as we become teachers, we are not doing things by guesswork. Okay, it's not just a matter of teacher test. What is this all about? Or they are giving assignments. What is this all about? It's because the first scholars who established the education system, that is what they recommended. So we can safely say that both systems are used. Okay, Mr. Mwila? I don't know if Mr. Tabo, are you okay with that?
I missed about 3 points.
Okay.
When you were touching the area of idealism.
Okay, great.
The 4 important points: truthful, important,
Okay.
and these other.
Okay, fine. Okay, with regard to idealism, what I said that we should be able to understand that idealism is the oldest philosophical school of thought established by Plato. Okay. Now, the entire project of idealism is about helping people to reason. That is the only philosophy which has come out clearly that the ultimate or the main objective of education is to help people to reason, to help people to acquire ideas so that they can use these ideas to solve problems. Okay. Why are they emphasizing on ideas? They say ideas are universal. Okay, ideas do not change. They remain permanent. Ideas contain the truth, and ideas are innate. Ideas are inborn, in short. Okay, so teachers should always help learners to acquire these ideas. All right. Okay. Any other question? Okay, currently we are, is it about 48 people? I think that is, it's not a bad number, it's quite okay. Any other questions? Or has some people written anything? Okay. We check on the message pads if there are any questions. Okay. Mr. Kalawa is just joining us now. He's a bit late. Okay, I've seen a series of messages here. Is it Mr. Jonathan Ziva says, Sir, I did not get you clearly on idealism points mentioned. Okay, I think that was just where I was making those clarifications. I said idealism. I said the basic characteristics of idealism. Sometimes they'll ask you that. What is idealism? What are the basic characteristics? We said idealism is universal, meaning that ideas are universal, meaning that ideas carry the same relevance worldwide. We said ideas do not change. Ideas are permanent. Okay. Okay, we did say ideas contain the truth. Okay, so the education system should aim at helping learners to acquire those ideas. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, I've seen Mr. Sauro. Mr. Sauro has written so many. He's taking notes. He's taking note of almost everything which we have talked about. Thank you for that feedback, Mr. Sauro. For those of you who are able to go into the writing pad, you can check on what Mr. Sauro has written. He says, what I gathered, it may help someone. About Socrates, he defines, is it the two types of knowledge, ordinary and higher knowledge? Types of learning, okay, spending time with wise people, question and answer method, self-reflection, interpretation of state. Okay, that is a very good write-up, Mr. Saulo. Quite encouraging. Okay, Mr. Anderson, you're asking who coined education. Okay. Okay, fine. When you are looking at, I know in your other areas of study, some scholars around 1800, you find some scholars talking about how they understand education. But education is quite old. It's quite an old system. by the time we're talking about 500 years ago, 500 years before Jesus was born, Socrates, is it Aristotle, they had their own definition of what education is, okay, as opposed to what the more, is it contemporary educationists tend to define it. Of course, they define education from, they say it comes from the two Greek words, which is educare, which implies bring forth, which coincides with what Plato was saying, that learners are born with ideas, because educare implies bring forth that which is already in the child. So the contemporary educationists, I think they are taking their ideas from these early scholars. Okay, what other comments do we have? We have some message from Jonathan Ziva, says, "Sir, I did not get you clearly on idealism points. I think I've already answered to that." Mr. Anderson says, "Who is the father of education?" Can I say Plato? Okay. Plato is a philosopher. Okay, he's a philosopher. Before him, there were other educationists who were, or there were other philosophers who were in place. Remember, we've just said Socrates was one of them. There's a group of sophists. There were educationists as well. Okay, so education is as old as human history. Okay, by the time people started living, education started. We can't say that someone founded education, is it maybe 200 years ago, 300 or 500 years ago. It is as old as before Jesus was there. That is, I think, from the philosophical point of view. Of course, when you are studying other sciences, like, is it sociology, they will tell you the father of education sociology is Emil Duncan. Those people are living, is it about 200 years ago. Okay, those are recent times. These people are living 500 years before Jesus was born. That is probably, if we are to equate that to the current time, that is almost 2000 plus 500 years. Okay, that is when these people are living. That is quite old. Okay, Madam Elizabeth, you're saying, please, for those who have electricity, kindly ensure that the notes, because there is no power and my battery is also low. Okay, anytime it will be off. Oh, sorry, madam, for that. Okay, Madam Evelyn was talking about something was cutting, I guess. Okay, I think those are the messages that I've received so far. I don't know, Mr. Abel, what did Plato mean by saying ideas do not change? Okay, great. Mr. Abel, what Plato meant is this. He says ideas remain the same. Okay, for example, let us talk about a table, isn't it? Or let us talk about a pen, isn't it? The idea of the pen is almost the same worldwide, isn't it? The idea of water is the same almost worldwide, isn't it? That do not change. Even if one is a Chinese or one is a Tonga, one is a Bemba, water is going to remain water, isn't it? There's nothing like that is going to change. Okay, Mr. I don't know if it's Madam Foster says, if the audio sent to the group, Plato talked about the parts of human soul. Okay, kindly shed more light on that. Okay, fine. Okay, that is another topic. We may delay some people who come and proceed from, I know Plato talked about, he did talk about those three parts of the human soul, which of course we'll be able to deal with in the next topic, in the next session. Is it the where you have is it the appetite, then you have is it the spirited, and then you have the rational. Okay, fine. We'll find time to come and deal with those particular parts in the next topic so that we do not delay people's other responsibilities. Remember, we did promise that our session was likely to take just for 1 hour. Okay, unless we had asked for people to stay for 2 hours, then we'd have proceeded with that. Okay, because we have some other assignments to engage into as well. Okay, I don't know, some other questions coming from Foster Chewe says, okay, I think that is someone I've talked about. Unless there are other questions before we close. Any questions, any contributions? Okay, like I did say, so this live session we've recorded. It will come just like the way the other series you are listening to came. Okay, Mr. Manda, any contribution? Seen your hand up?
I missed the Spartan type of education. You said they concentrated on physical training. What other?
Okay, Spartan education, their main remember, Spartan education was what we covered in the last session, where we said the Spartans ordinarily had their community was surrounded by conflicts. So the young people were trained to defend the city, and hence physical training was the priority in terms of education for the boys. And for the girls, it was how to keep the house, how to take care of the husband, how to cook, how to take care of the family. But whilst the young boys were being taught how to protect the territory, they were also taught the virtues. Okay, remember, those are the virtues that we talked about: prudence, fortitude, temperance, and obedience. That is what we had said about the Spartans. Okay. Any other? Is Mr. Any other contribution? Okay. Thank you so much for your time. We'll definitely be able to do another session. I think we should be able to be done. We should be done by next week, Tuesday. If we are able to have one session on Thursday this week, then it means that by Tuesday next week we should be closing these online sessions, and then you remain basically listening to the recordings. Okay, I did manage to send the assignments, and hopefully people saw that. In case you missed out, just ask your colleagues. They'll be able to re-forward again on the platform. And in terms of submissions, I did indicate that you'll be able to come with those assignments when you come for residential. Okay, thank you so much. Unless there are any other contributions which people would want to make.
It was just a request that
Okay.
you're able to reshare the audio clips that
Okay, if I'll be able to share the audio, okay, of course. I need to do those formalities. By tomorrow morning, because I need to create those links so that people can be able to access them. Because as it is now, if I post it now, it is quite big, and it may not come on WhatsApp, so it requires to come on the link. Okay, that will be done by tomorrow, madam. Feel free, if you want to make any contribution, you want to talk to your colleagues. I'll leave this open for the next 5 minutes, then I'll close it. I've seen some hands. I don't know if they are. No.